There are many wacky stories on Tumblr.com, a good amount of which are most likely fake. Need I remind you of some classic Tumblr hoaxes, such as the Down with Cis bus, the messy Portland polycule situation, or the woman posing as the My Immortal author searching for her long-lost brother. However, there was one story in particular that blew up this week that caught my attention, and that was a story by Tumblr user Redrook about how they would spend most of their grocery store shift stuck in a cage. And I do not mean the allegorical cage of being forced to work long hours for crap pay in this dystopian capitalistic society. No, I mean a literal cage. The original post reads, "I spent a lot of time handcuffed and in a cage in high school for a charity bit that the store I worked at would do. The bit was that I was put in jail for having too big a heart, and customers could donate to my bail to get me out, and the money would go to a children's hospital or something. Now, I was very clearly a teenaged employee handcuffed inside a large cage, and I would honestly tell people that I had been in there for hours, and people would say, 'That's terrible, that's awful,' and I would show them my wrists, red from the tight handcuffs, and say, 'But I'm so close to making bail,' and then they would dump some cash in the basket, I'd thank them, and they'd walk away. And every so often, one of the managers would come by and collect some of the cash, so I could keep being so close to making bail. I was very good with this bit. Parents with small kids would pay me $5 to $10 if I told their children I had been placed in jail for not cleaning my room, doing my homework, etc. For people in their 20s, I threatened that I was very bad at playing the harmonica, but I would play it and we'd all suffer unless they paid me. And for the most amount of money, older men in suits would almost always pay $20 if I avoided eye contact and stammered a lot. Eventually, the manager started to feel bad because I was in a cage so fucking long and often that I'd need someone to brace me when I got out because I'd have no feeling in my legs, wobbling like a newborn giraffe. But I would also rake in at least $100 an hour in charity. So they were like, "Hey champ, can we give you a pillow to sit on in a cage? Would you like a pillow so you're not just sitting on a cold metal slab? Can we give you a pillow?" And I had to explain to them that if they gave me a pillow, people would think I was more comfortable, so they wouldn't feel as bad, and I'd bring in less money. The compromise was that they'd bring me a nice coffee every couple hours, which I would have to try to block with my body from the customers. All this money went to charity. That's what the money was for. It's what was on the sign. But how much they were willing to pay was very contingent on how comfortable I looked, never mind the fact that I was still a teenaged employee handcuffed inside a cage. And out of the dozens of shifts I did this on, not once did anyone say, "Hey kid, I'm gonna go talk to your manager because what the fuck is going on here?" They would just drop money in the basket and I'd thank them and sip from my secret drink. I actually had people get mad at me that I told them that I was far away from bail. They donated like $15, and in 20 minutes I got let out because my shift ended. So yeah, even when people think they mean well, people can be really fucking stupid. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here, right? My question is, which freaking grocery store is putting teens in cages? What the fuck? I know OP consented to this, but just sitting in a cage in like a very cramped position for extended periods of time to the point where you can barely stand on your own once you get out sounds freaking painful. Plus, me personally, but I would feel bored as fuck just sitting in that cage. Also too, I think that was such a gross detail about how the older men in suits would pay more if OP, who was a teenage girl at the time, avoided eye contact and stammered. I think you and I understand the very fucking gross implications. As messed up as I think this is though, I'm not surprised that no one talked to OP's manager about having a teen in a cage. Like, unless they provided customers with actual cattle prods or something, I would just assume that this is like weird but regular humiliation corpo bullshit that is technically legal but morally gray. And the most I would do is not shop there anymore because the caged child makes me uncomfortable. Of course, when this story was first posted, naturally people questioned whether this post was serious or not. Well, in response, Redrook insisted that it was serious and proceeded to provide even more details. Took me a bit, but this is roughly what the cage looked like, without the middle platform. It was something that was originally used in the back for carting boxes, but was repurposed into a teenager cage. They'd wheel it out, and the one open side would be backed against either a wall or a large display, like very tall rows of soda boxes or something. They would push the thing so it would be as flush as possible against a wall, and then I'd stick my hands through the bars for them to handcuff me. There'd be a sign up top explaining the bit, and then a shopping basket tied on front for people to drop the money into. The handcuffs were fake, and I could unlock them myself for obvious safety reasons. I would get more donations if they were tight though. After maybe a month or two, I asked for a harmonica to sell the bit. They also tried giving me a mug, but it was too awkward with the handcuffs. I got kind of okay at playing the harmonica, but the main point was just to do one sharp blast to startle people into looking down, and then I threatened that I had no idea how to play, but would do so anyways unless they donated to my bail. Managers actually got me a prison jumpsuit to throw over my uniform, but it was really fucking awkward, so we stopped eventually. I also find it incredibly funny that wearing a prison uniform made things awkward for everyone, but like, not the fact that there is a teenage girl in a cage at your local grocery store. We can't make it too realistic now, or else people will think too hard about the real world problems that they weren't trying to think about, and then they'll feel uncomfortable. Ew! I also got a metric fuck ton of Mardi Gras beads so I could lure small children over, to then mournfully tell them of my imprisonment due to not cleaning my room, etc. Parents would be moderately irritated that I'd lured their children over with beads, but would respect the game that I'd given their kids a whole new fear. I had some parents even ad-lib what I could have been thrown in prison for, guaranteed donations. Obviously, the prison bit worked best with younger girls. Oh, do not like that. My roughly 50 to 60-year-old manager once congratulated me on doing so well with the donations because I looked like a cute, sad little puppy in one of those RSPCA commercials, like a helpless puppy or kitten. Wearing makeup and earrings also increased the rate of donations. Cannot stress enough that the other employees fought to get to be in the cage. Customers were so awful and the weather was so shitty. Jail meant sitting down with very few expectations, talking and joking with people. Anyway, shit was definitely not an allegory, though it could be used as one for about 11 different things. Still better than customer service. And this Tumblr user in the tags commented, "Least brutal North American grocery store job story." Honestly, as someone who has went through the rite of working customer service, I could definitely see that. Yeah, I will admit, it sounds way more fun to just play a character and riff with the customers, as opposed to getting yelled at for like store prices that you cannot control. When asked more about details regarding which customers would give what amount of money, Redrook proceeded to break down what she believed were people's motivations when they donated. Now, I'm not going to read all of it because some of it is just repeated information. I think the only new demographic talked about here are the bougie-ish white couples in their 40s. Eventually, this outrageous story did make its way to other social media sites and evoked a variety of reactions. Some chiming in that they also thought this sounded like a fun job and better than customer service. Others wondering if this was a kink thing. Others that were outraged and believed that this was messed up. And a good amount of others thinking that this was fake. Now, I really don't know if Redrook was telling the truth or not. We'll never know for sure unless someone produces some pictures. However, grocery store employees, or people in general getting locked up and requesting bail for charity, is actually a more common practice than some realize, believe it or not. On fundraisingideas.org, they explain what the jail and bail fundraiser is. In this case, they describe a specific fundraiser for the Canadian Cancer Society set up at a shopping center. This site just provides a general overview of the concept, and there's no wiki page or anything for the history of jail and bail campaigns, but during my search, I did find this informative zine by Project Nia regarding its turbulent history. According to the zine, this type of fundraising was popularized by Mr. Johnny Cash when he participated in a week-long jail-a-thon to raise money for the American Cancer Society. The fundraiser was a success, raising over $20,000, and ever since, this type of fundraiser has been quite popular with medical-based charity funds. But the irony is that they often neglect to alleviate the health issues of the incarcerated, the very people these participants choose to cosplay in order to raise funds. I won't go into further detail here, but if you are interested in reading about Project Nia's criticisms of the jail and bail fundraiser, I will leave the link in my description below. It's not too long of a read and very good food for thought, but back to the story. If you just look up jail and bail charity, it seems like Walmart actively uses this tactic for some of its fundraisers, often posting about them in their local Facebook groups. There was one Walmart fundraiser where instead of a cage, they used saran wrap to saran wrap this lady to a chair. That particular one was reposted on Imgur, and of course, Imgur users had to point out how saran wrap fetishes were also a thing. There's really no escaping the fetish and kink allegations with these charity events. I also want to note too that even though there were some black Walmart managers who agreed to do this in other locations, you know, admittedly, it did not look as good outside of context, and it was met with backlash. I also came across a number of women participating in bail and jail fundraisers for animal shelters, often calling their cage a puppy prison. I wonder, do they know about pup play? one has to wonder just how innocent some of these suburban women are, you know? Like, on one hand, I'm under the impression that your average Karen is ignorant to the ways of kink, and has probably just stuck with missionary until the conception of their latest child, and don't realize that some of these situations are pretty fetishy. But on the other hand, they do have access to the internet just like anyone else. And anyone can be into kink, you know? Who knows if Miss Jennifer Pegg already had this cage ready in her room. I mean, she did rack up $1,000 in charity that day. I doubt she'd find this video, but if that's not true, I do apologize, Miss Pegg. Either way though, jail and bail is an actual charity strat. And if you're thinking that this is a little messed up, unfortunately, quite a number of charity strats are weird and messed up. One example is the history of the dunk tank. I will not explain that here, but feel free to look that up if you would like to learn more about America's racist history. So all in all, while the teenager cage story is bizarre and a bit morally dubious, unfortunately, it does also seem probable that this could have happened. Of course though, we'll never know unless pictures actually surface from Tumblr user Redrook. Either way, I am going to feel very uncomfortable if I ever see this at my local grocery store in real life. I don't like this tactic. Please don't put people in cages for charity. Let me know how you would react as well in the comments below, either as someone witnessing an employee in a cage as part of a charity, or as an employee working the cage. If you have a real life story similar to this one, even better. Do you agree that it beats customer service? Would you, as a grocery store shopper, feel as weirded out as me? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye-bye.
I'm literally in a cage, despite all my rage. How did I get in here? Gay baby Joe.